There are plenty of problems that will come up unexpectedly that will increase your schedule and budget fast. Observe how it's done, and then, if you still want to do it yourself, you'll know what you're getting yourself into. I spent the last while telling you all about the things to be careful about when dealing with multimedia. Having said all that, I must stress that multimedia is a technology that many companies should not be without. Since it is such a highly effective way of training and passing along information, a company should study to see why multimedia would not improve its bottom line. The best approach is to look at how industries related to your field are using this technology. Then, if you are still wary, produce a relatively small multimedia program. I am confident that you will see the same bottom line advantages that have made other companies permanent promoters of multimedia.
Thank you, Mr. Better. Let us begin the second question and answer session. We have several faxes. The first is from Guadalajara, the Universidad. The question has to do with hypertext and the hypertext design. Questions of how do you present the contents of hypertext, and is there a bibliography of hypertext materials that you can recommend?
Well, there are a number of ways to build in hypertext links. Sometimes people think of it as providing a almost three-dimensional spider web environment in your multimedia content. And one of the elements that's been developed is to provide an underlining or a highlighting of a text passage or word. And when the user with their mouse clicks on that particular highlighted passage, it takes them to another part of the multimedia package that might provide an elaboration on that concept. It might provide a video demonstration of that concept, or it might take them to some unexplored territory in the multimedia package. So that's one approach. A couple of references that I would provide in terms of hypertext would be there is a book called Multimedia Power Tools. It was written by Michael Gosney here in San Diego. It's a very powerful book, and the new edition will just be coming out in a couple of months. They originally wrote it for Mac, but the next edition, which comes out this fall, will be for Mac and IBM. That would be one very good source I would go to.
How do you spell the last name?
Gosney is G-O-S-N-E-Y.
Okay. We have a fax also from the Universidad Estatal a Distancia in San Jose, Costa Rica. And this, they ask you, provided information on the minimal equipment for a PC-based multimedia workstation. They want to remotely connect a minimum of 15 units to the workstation in a kind of multi-point network. What do you recommend for those kinds of connections?
Typically, again, because of the cross-platform abilities of most computers, you can do it with a PC, like a Pentium high-end PC machine. It can be a Quadra Macintosh. A lot of people tend to use the Sun Spark stations because they're extremely fast and very good for multimedia. The main key is that your connections to the computers be such that they can transmit audio, and if you have video, very fast. Text is not a problem, but audio takes a much bigger bandwidth, so that's a very important thing to know.
John?
One approach that's been taken in some interesting multimedia products is to deliver the majority of the content on CD-ROM and install that on each of the remote workstations. And then in the network environment, the only information that goes over the network live is what changes from one frame to the next. If it's especially useful if it's an interactive environment where multiple people are engaged in that multimedia environment simultaneously interacting with each other in a learning environment or training environment. And so then only the actions of the individuals move across the network. And so in fact there's less information flowing across the network because you're not transferring all the images over the environment that's already been installed on the remote stations.
We have a call now from the Comisión Federal de Electricidad in Mérida, Yucatan. Welcome. Your question, please.
Yes, we wanted to know if there was any type of multimedia package that was interactive for the client and what you have to say as regards the future of this type of application. Thank you.
There's no one product. There are many products in the form of interlinking presentation software or what they call authoring software, where you can actually build a complex program. And again, different software have been developed for different needs. So you really need to analyze what your needs are and then seek out the software that best suits that need.
We have many other callers here. The next one is from Tijuana, the Instituto Tecnológico de Tijuana. Your question, please.
Yes, we would like to know how we, supported by multimedia, can make classroom teaching more efficient given the economic limitations of many countries to produce materials. Is there any type of organism or entity that would distribute free material or instruction for mid to higher level learning institutions amongst the different countries that may need this type of support or information?
It's a very good question, and it's a continuing challenge for virtually every country because many aspects of multimedia can be so expensive. One avenue is on the World Wide Web. In fact, there is something called the global schoolroom or schoolhouse. And through that, you may find some useful multimedia content avenues. And then also here in San Diego, we've developed something that's called the City of the Future. And I'm the co-chair of a part of that called Info San Diego. And Info San Diego is a joint effort between our region and Tijuana. And we're creating a multimedia information environment that will be available on the World Wide Web. And we hope that that will help share information in that environment.
It's a bit early, I assume, for agencies like the UN or UNESCO or OAS or whatever to be providing multimedia packaging.
Not necessarily. I think that's an idea. Perhaps someone needs to propose it.
Okay. We have a question from Argentina, the Universidad Nacional de Córdoba. Welcome. Your question, please.
¿Y su pregunta?
Sí, buenos días.
Yes, good morning.
Habida cuenta del constante cambio en las
Due to
tecnologías,
constant change in technology related to multimedia, do you believe that we have reached a sufficient level of maturity so as to incorporate them into a small business strategy, or should we wait for the technology to become more defined, speaking specifically of CD-ROMs and other types of disks? Thank you.
No, actually, now is the perfect time for small businesses to get into multimedia. It wasn't 2 years ago, definitely not. But now the sophistication of the hardware and the prices have dropped enough that you definitely can get involved with multimedia. Even the price of producing your own ROM, they have CD-ROM burners where you can do your in-house development and actually do one at a time copies. It's all here now for the small business at a very small price.
We have a call from San Jose, the Universidad Estatal a Distancia in San Jose, Costa Rica. Welcome. Your question, please.
Buenos días. Una felicitación para tan buenos los expertos.
Congratulate your experts, and we have a question that could be divided into two. Have you developed applications for software and multimedia? What we're using is Topol. Would this be ideal to develop applications that would use present-day technology, and what are the aspects in this regard? And is there some kind of catalog, especially for Spanish language productions, especially in the educational sector? Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Topol, so I can't answer that question. Have you heard of that?
I'm not familiar with the organization either, but if you would like to follow up on that, I'd be happy to, again, to try to find out more about it. The question, though, is there an organization you can go to get information about multimedia products for education and training? One of the issues is that how do you know the quality of what you'd be getting? And so you need to be careful. And one of the things to look at are some of the very credible organizations that have now set up award programs. And by screening through their process of judges and expert panels, they identify some of the best. And there's one that is in California, I believe. It holds a interactive multimedia festival. And then there's also one in New York, the New York Festivals, with its Multimedia Awards program. And they do a very good job of screening. You might start by contacting some of those groups. And I know the New York Festival is international. They bring in software, multimedia packages from all around the world, many different languages, some of them being Spanish.
So even if you couldn't get to the festival, the catalog from the festival would serve. We have a call from Brazil, Key TV in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Welcome. Your question, please.
Okay, this is a question related to training.
Sí, esta es una pregunta que tiene que ver con...
Just like sales development or leadership, with a duration of 2 or 3 days, what would be the average investments to develop such a course?
If I
Use
understand,
multimedia resources.
if I understand the question correctly, it's not so much a question of what resources are needed to invest in the hardware to create it, but what does it cost to make a new multimedia product, given that somebody already has, say, the hardware, the expertise. And the price ranges widely from some products I know that have been very good. One that was developed for a museum opening, an art gallery opening. It was done as a multimedia press release, essentially on a CD-ROM. It was beautifully done. It cost about $10,000 to $12,000. That includes making the multiple copies of the CD-ROM, the whole thing, about $12,000. But I know other products that have cost $250,000, and others that go up from there. So, I think Myst, one of the popular games now, very successful, highly regarded, cost $1 million. So it ranges quite widely.
Generally, the more video that goes into a program, then the more expensive a program is going to become. That seems to be the most expensive component of it.
And time consumption in making it, that can vary widely also.
Again, depending on how complex the program is, and the more branching that you have, the more places that a user can go, then the more programming that has to go into it, the more graphics, the more time it takes to produce them.
We have a call now from Mexico, the Comisión Federal de Electricidad in SECAP in Mexico DF. Welcome. Your question, please.
Yes, when creating an application using authoring for multimedia using the hard drive, we would transfer this information to CD-ROM, and when doing so, the original speed varies, and there's a little a backlog as regards audio. How could we solve this problem without using triple or quad speed drives? Thank you very much.
A lot of it has to do with where you place the information on the CD-ROM. Information that is placed towards the center of the CD-ROM usually gets read faster than that on the outside. So, for instance, on the multimedia programs that we produce, we put all the video in the middle, followed by animations, followed by audio, and then finally your text and the code that runs the program. That's usually the best way that you can get around that problem. But it is slower, and you will see a performance difference.
And a question now from Panama, the Universidad Tecnológica de Panama. Welcome. Your question, please.
What possibilities exist to use electronics in the LAN system to develop and control multimedia. Si pudiese repetir la pregunta.
Okay. Is it a LAN system we're talking about?
Es un sistema. Sí, local area network.
Yeah.
Sí, sí, así es.
And the question is about connectors? Was it?
¿Qué posibilidades existen usar asynchronic transfer mode en los LAN?
Can we use asynchronics transfer mode? The term isn't quite clear. Asynchronous transfer mode for LAN systems.
Well, the technology of the asynchronous transfer mode, or ATM, has been developed as a means for delivering very broadband information over the public telecommunications network, and is being tested in a variety of environments. It's expensive, of course, and can add many tens of thousands of dollars to the cost of an environment. And there will be some experiments here in the San Diego region in the coming months with a German telecommunications company and with Tijuana. So we'll learn a lot more from that experience with delivering multimedia in a network environment using ATM. But it's still being tested to get a definitive answer on how to do it. It will work. It's a question of exactly how, I think.
We have a question from Sao Paulo, Key TV. Welcome. Your question, please.
Hello. My question is, do you think that the CD-ROM format will survive the so-called information superhighway?
Okay, a good question.
Yeah, definitely. It will for now, because there are such limitations on what can be transferred through wire, or however the superhighway is being transferred around. So, and you've got instantaneously 650 megabytes of information in front of you. To try and download that through the internet or information superhighway just takes a long time. But as Dr. Pavlik was mentioning, they are coming up with software that now is making that more and more possible.
We have a fax from Tamaulipas and Ciudad Victoria about compatibility. Can a multimedia CD-ROM be played on any type of computer?
It depends. It can only play on the computer that it was designed for. So if it was designed for a Mac, it'll only play on a Macintosh, and conversely for the PC. However, many programs are putting the software for both the Mac and the PC on the same CD-ROM, so you can distribute one material for both machines. Of course, you're limited to how much information you can pack onto that CD-ROM to know whether you can do that or not.
Thank you for your excellent questions, so many excellent questions. We are now running out of time for this session. We must now bring to a close this teleconference and the 1994-95 series. For those of you participating in the 1995 series, there will be 2 more programs, one on August 24th and one on December 7th, for you to attend in order to qualify for the certificate. Thank you to our experts, Dr. John Pavlik and Mr. Mark Better, for making clear the nature of multimedia and its many useful applications for professional training and education. We hope that your applications of multimedia throughout the Americas will benefit many learners. At the conclusion of this 4-part series of teleconferences, I would like to return to a basic point. Technology can make possible many wonderful learning opportunities, whether it is computer applications, teleconferencing, distance education, multimedia, or other technologies. But it can do so only to the extent that specific people make it happen. And that is true for this teleconference series as well. It has been a privilege to serve as the host of these teleconferences, but my part as host, while visible, has been the easiest part. It is only because of a very large number of unsung heroes that these have worked. Thank you to the local hosts, engineers, and organizers working on this series in all our downlink sites through Mexico and Latin America. You have made this all possible and worthwhile. Thank you also to the satellite operators, production crew, and technicians who have carried these signals back and forth between us. Thank you to KPBS and all of their staff. Thank you to our interpreters and to the director of the International Training Center, Dr. Miguel Angel Cardenas, who created this series. Our wish for all of you participating today is that this series will be beneficial to you and those you train and teach. May you survive, grow, and thrive, and may the use of telecommunications for education and professional training assist you in that. I'm Dr. Michael Reel. For all of us here at the International Training Center and KPBS Studios, thank you and best wishes.